everybody. Welcome to this webinar. I'm so glad that you're here to join me for Human Design, a dismantling of your mind's illusions of self with Darshana Deborah Matthews. Hi, Darshana.
Hi. Hi, everyone.
Hi. You have your presentation for us today. I'm so excited about that.
Yeah, we're going to go on looking at the G Center. And last time we looked at the cosmological aspects of it. Now we're going to go from the macro to the microcosm and kind of look at it through how it affects us, how we're embodied through it. As we go through it, remember that for those of you who understand or have a knowing of human design, that even though you don't have the G Center defined, you do have a G Center, you have a sense of self. And even though you don't have all of the gates activated, or even one, I have an open G with no activations, it doesn't mean that you don't experience existence through the frequency that those gates represent. You're also an embodiment. What we know is that definition brings the particular aspect of you, your uniqueness, yet we all exist here in the totality as a full being. We're just narrowed down into our unique expressions. So when the consciousness, like we talked about last time, we are filters of the consciousness field, and how it moves through us goes through our activations, whether they're dormant, which means in a center that is undefined. So you have an activation, but it's in a center that's undefined. So it's only really going to wake up and be perky and engaged when something is connecting to it or activating that center. But the gate 10, the gate of the behavior of the self, we all have a behavior of ourself. Mine's going to be very dependent on my authority and my strategy and how I'm relating to what's external to me. And that's the same with each of you. How we meet what comes to us from outside, we meet through our definition. We meet through the authority that we have, which informs our strategy. And our strategy is what we get through our type. So that's the beauty of it. We can take it all in, but we always resource into the uniqueness of our design.
Yeah, so beautiful. I'm glad you mentioned that, because it's a common misconception that people have, that they don't have a G Center, or sometimes people describe it in that, oh, you don't have a G Center, you know, and that's not true at all. You don't have a gate 10. Yeah,
all it means is, you know, in here with a completely open G like I have. Don't you have that G, Andrea?
I have a defined G. It's a 1/8.
That's right. You have the one, right? Somebody else I was thinking of. But it simply means that that's an area. Remember, we hear that. This is where you go to school. And the reason why you go to school there is because you don't have your own particular tuning there. You will just resonate and harmonize with what comes through. Then where we get lost is when we let our those areas where we're not defined make decisions for us. You know, we'll return to that, where it's like, oh, this feels stable and secure when I'm with this person. I'm going to start making decisions that I feel I have some certainty on or safety in or something when I'm with this person. So suddenly we've externalized our authority into somebody else's design, and then we've lost ourselves, basically. Lost access to ourselves. Not lost. I mean, we never not stop being our own design. We never stop that. But if we externalize our, you know, one of the beautiful things about human design is you are your own authority. You are your own authority. You have an authority. And when you source from that, then you'll see as we go through with the G Center, you'll see how we are embodied in this illusion of separateness, moving in space and time. So beautiful.
Yay, I'm so excited. I'm so glad you guys are all here. Thank you so much, Darshana, for doing this for us.
Yeah, so here we go again. Love. And what is love? You know, what is the embodiment of love? How is it that this word that is so commonly used, and how does that connect with the nature of being? Well, as this says, and this is a quote from Ra, when looking for love, start at the center. I had this in last time in the slideshow too, and I just wanted to include it again because I want to keep reminding ourselves how through the understanding of our design and the grounding in presence through awareness, we begin to surrender to the direction of our form, the direction. And this surrender aligns us with our unique purpose and brings to expression the fullness of love. So as we relax into our being, our passenger, we actually allow the flow of consciousness field to stream through us and to dance in this differentiation. Like I was just talking about, how each of us have these uniquenesses, the differentiation of what we are, that we're here to share. And then we meet our true self, this bridge between the soul's essence and purpose. And you can see there the vessel of love, the essence, the embodiment, and the purpose, which has movement and evolution in it.
Direction. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And this also I included last time. I think it's such a pretty slide. So I really, what resonates for me with this is the feeling of holding the self, like the preciousness that each of us are in our uniqueness, and how so often from the very beginning of our journey as a human in this lifetime, we meet things that wound us and deny us and sort of, you know, this Japanese, I think it's a Japanese or Chinese warrior method, which was called death by a thousand wounds. Mm-hmm. And that somehow what life brings to us, all these small cuts, you know, these small little foot. And then slowly, we lose our sense of self. We become lost in distortion. We become lost in confusion and fear and anxiety and all these elements that are there. And from the body graph, we can understand that we actually have some unique type through our definition. And that type has a strategy, and the strategy of that is informed by our authority. And when we hold that, we actually can relax back into being the passenger and awareness in form and come into the unfoldment of our purpose here. Last time we were looking at how we are expressions of the macrocosm, or how the universe sort of began, and we are on this trajectory from the original source and of the singularity that was there. And here we're going to kind of dive into the two crosses, incarnation crosses, that are the only ones that actually are created in one center. And that is the cross of the vessel of love and the cross of the Sphinx. And this is, you know, as it says up there, our existence is held together through the illusion of direction and love. So we saw then how there's that program that holds this illusion in place and provides then for the backdrop of our experiences here on Earth. Mm-hmm. And that this background is actually held together by these two incarnation crosses. The cross of the Sphinx, which is about direction, and the cross of the vessel of love, which is about love. Mm-hmm. So our existence is held together then through this illusion of direction and love. Because, and why is it illusion? I mean, it's like, if we really recognize that there is no, that it's all interconnected. And so we aren't actually separate. We're all woven together in the matrix of this totality. But with our self-reflected consciousness, we have the ability to reflect on ourself as something separate. The G center is what is integrating the genetic form and personality aspects of this microcosmic totality that is us, the self. Mm-hmm. And at the core of the G center Now, why did it go away? All right. At the core of it is the magnetic monopole, which is the driver. It's what's giving life its direction. And we're going to look a little bit, or look into a bit, the magnetic monopole. Sphinx people, the people who were born on the cross of the Sphinx, are what Ra called the keepers of the world. It's beautiful, huh? The direction, the keepers of the world, because they're an aspect of the global totality that maintains our link to the universal self and to the evolutionary direction and development. So this is what they are here to be embodiments of. Now, we all have a connection to the global totality, obviously, but we're all different expressions. I'm a cross of service. I'm here in another way, looking at my type, looking at my profile, looking at my channels. Beings that are here on the cross of the Sphinx, regardless of the type, are those who are serving this function as being an aspect.
Can I share something about a Sphinx, Darshana?
Sure.
I actually met one who was a teacher, and I did LYD, ABCs, and cartography in person after I had already started human design, and I was still kind of like holding on to my old life, but she was the one that said, hey, Jovian Archive is hiring, you should apply. And that was the invitation that I got to get deeper into human design, and who knows where I would be without that invitation and that assistance to study, encouragement, invitation to study human design.
Yeah. Yeah. So in a way, we could see them as, I mean, depending on what their personality sun is, because it can be one of the 4 gates of the Sphinx. Let's see, that's the other way. Would be what their focal expression is, because one's going to be gate 13 as the witness, the one who is, you know, the one who has seen the things, has gone out in the world and come back and has the secrets that are there. And the 7, which is the gate of leadership, the role of leadership, and how it is going to feel the patterns, know the patterns, and move us to the future in a way that we can thrive. And gate 1, like you have in a channel, gate 1, the gate of the creative, the great gate of Yang, you know, the energetic field of creation and evolution, its movement. And then gate 2, where the magnetic monopole is, that is embodiment and form. And it is direction as well, but it's direction of the form. We're being pulled in our form along with, or let me rephrase that, we are pulling to us. I was watching this fun video today. I was looking up on, I don't know, something, and a guy was using very interesting ways of talking about the Earth going around the sun and on its ecliptic and on its angle, and how we look at the sky and we watch the cosmos go by and think of it moving. And then he did the reverse, and he says, actually, we're the ones that are moving, you know. And not only is the Earth in rotation, not only is the Earth in its orbit around the sun, but and moving around on its axle as it goes around through the seasonal changes, our own solar system is in movement. There's some really wonderful images on online where you can find them, and videos that show the movement of the sun and the spiraling movement it does. So yeah, so Sphinxes, they're tuned to the movement.
Okay, beautiful.
And then the magnetic monopole, this is an image from Ra here, this one in the middle, and that if you imagine that the magnetic monopole has this binary function, that it's the key to our direction in our incarnation, it's guiding us from our womb, and it's guiding us out into life. It probably, you know, because when the design crystal connects then with the magnetic monopole at the right time inside the egg, the potential of the egg, and begins the forming of the fetus, it calls down the personality crystal, and then the magnetic monopole holds those two crystals together. So our consciousness crystal is being held in this relationship with the pre-existing relationship of the magnetic monopole and the design crystal.
Mm-hmm.
Then we move through our life with this unique design, unique experience of consciousness and form until the body deteriorates. And so then the design crystal drops away and our personality crystal returns back to our one of the 16 crystal bundles that surround in a sheath around the earth. So there is this trajectory of our destiny, and the magnetic monopole has this geometry then that functions as a driver and guides us along on the axis of our lunar nodes. Today, we're going to just look at one of the incarnation crosses, and then the next time we meet, because this is an ongoing series of webinars, we'll look then into the other cross that is inside the G center. When you look at this here, you can see that the G center is actually structured on the number 8, on the element of 8, the aspect of 8. It has 8 gates, and these are what form these two great crosses. And you can see them in the layout there with the astrological zodiac, all very specifically placed. And if we were to draw lines in, maybe I did this last time, I can't remember, it would come into the middle point here of where all these elements are being held together that are aspects of our being here, direction and form. So they mark the 4 seasons, and they also mark the 4 interregnums, which are the points in between the shift of the seasons here. Let's see.
The 8 houses of the I-Ching.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, so we have the Sphinx, and now you can see just the gates of the Sphinx. It forms a kind of trident, as you can see, with the 8-1. And again, think of, if you know about circuitry, think about what's going here. Nothing tribal. There's individual circuitry that's going from the 1 and the 2, the connection between the 1 and the 2, or the presence of them, and then collective circuitry. So this is really about the self in the relationship with the whole, and in relationship in that we move through that. The potential of that magnetic monopole then is to guide our life, and that will be then manifested through these 4 gates of the Sphinx. Here's hexagram 1, the example. We know it as part of the channel of inspiration, the design of a creative role model in the now. Gate 13, a collective sensing circuit gate, the witness. So direction, again, this is direction based on the past. Where have I been? And how is that informing me?
Can you point to where it is in the wheel? Because it may be somewhat hard to see for other people.
Yeah, 13 is here.
Mm-hmm.
So here's 1. This is the beginning of the quarter of mutation and transformation, because this is the beginning of winter. It's the beginning of death. Oops, just every time I click it does that. And then here we have the beginning of the quarter of initiation, gate 13. Let's go into a body and witness. Let's go in and have experiences that are going to take us through life. And as we move through, the quarter, here we come then to hexagram 2, which is the plan, the direction or the driver, form, magnetic monopole, and the beginning of the quarter of civilization, purpose fulfilled through form. And then we have gate 7, the leader. This is in the quarter of duality, purpose fulfilled through bonding. This quarter is very much about the one-on-one relational field, me and the other, purpose fulfilled through bonding. So these are the directional gates. This is the interregnums. the other incarnation cross is the cross of the vessel of love, which is about love, about holding us together through these hexagrams. Remember, Ra has said so often, and you'll see this in many other writings, love yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And that love, when it's in the G center in this way, it's really about the embodiment of your uniqueness, simply allowing what your uniqueness is to be that, which will then drop you right into the relationship of your strategy and your authority. So here we have hexagram 15, which is over here, the pattern, love of humanity and embracing the difference. Hexagram 10, the nature, the love of self or of being oneself. And 25 over here on the right side, the way, the universal love, the gate of innocence, retaining innocence. And then here's this experiential way, right? The human life, the way of the abstract, of looking back on the past, the love of the body, the temple. Yeah, so here we see the shifts of the seasons and how they are marked at the cusp of the beginning of the zodiac sign of Aries and of Cancer, of Libra, and of Capricorn. And those are actually known as the cardinal signs. And cardinal meaning that they are ones that are shifting points. The cross of love, in a lot of ways, it's a lot more complex. Well, this is the one we're looking at today than the cross, because each of these gates, each of the 8 gates in the G center, as you were mentioning, are leading hexagrams in our 8 houses of the I-Ching. But when they're oriented here on the zodiacal wheel, there's a difference in this that you can see graphically, because the Sphinx are associated with the 4 signs of the zodiac, where the army is in Leo. Let's see, where's that? Here, gate 7 is in Leo, and the creative is in Scorpio. The fellowship of man, you can almost hear Aquarius in that, if you know, familiar with astrological things. And then the receptive is in Taurus. Again, we think of Taurus as being very fleshy, very form oriented. The 4 gates on the cross of love are cusp hexagrams, because they straddle 2 zodiacal signs. So then we have 15 down here, the gate of modesty, which is straddling Gemini and Cancer. We have gate 25, which is the gate of innocence in between Pisces and Aries. We have gate 46, the gate of called pushing upward, which is straddling Virgo and Libra. And then gate 10, which is straddling Sagittarius and Capricorn. So these borders, they're elements that mark our present seasons, right? And as it says here, we've got the vernal or spring equinox, summer solstice, sometimes called midsummer, autumnal equinox or autumn, and the winter solstice, which a lot of religions have adopted these points in time and made religious holidays out of them, because they're very powerful points in time. There. There's 3 gates in the vessel of love, that are called gates of love. In human design, there are 4 points in the vessel of love, and they activate 4 of those 8 gates inside the G center. And the G center is where, as we remember, the magnetic monopole is, which is in the body. And it's this is important, our individual connection to the cosmic geometry. So the G center in design analysis is representing the higher self, the so-called higher self, or I'll put it in quotes, because it's actually the individual totality. Isn't that an interesting concept to think of it in that way? The individual totality, just like we have this relationship with the totality, the absolute, the great oneness, well, here we have the individual great oneness, which again, we forget as we go through our life, that we are self-contained and whole. So this is then combining conscious and unconscious aspects of our being and this individual totality. So, for example, then with Sphinx people, this is the total self that must recognize its place, its direction in this life. And out of that recognition, then emerges our human evolution. For people who are part of the vessel, this is the total self. So we have direction in the Sphinx. Here it's the totality of the self. And first, we have to recognize our separateness. And then our capacity to transcend separateness through love. So out of this recognition, then emerges our true nature. We have these three gates of love, the spirit of the self, gate 25, innocence, the potential capacity of the self to be initiated, the gate of the spiritual warrior. Each of you, as you're listening to this, just listen into each of these and feel it inside yourself. Feel that aspect. You have the potential capacity to be initiated, for yourself to be initiated into awakening in the now, every moment, as yourself, as a creative being. The key to the self's individual potential to compete. Well, that comes from the channel that gate 25 is connected with. The channel of initiation, a design of needing to be first. We always hear that and think, oh, because 70% of people have an open ego center and think, oh, that's all competitive and you just need to be first. No, we all need to be first. Love yourself. And people who wear the channel, carry the frequency of the channel, teach us that when they're living in alignment with their design, in the perfection of their design.
Yes.
Gate 15, the gate of modesty, the rhythm of the self. Okay, this is logic circuitry. This is here. Logical is moving towards the future. Meeting the patterns, feeling the patterns, dropping into the rhythm. And remember, we talked just a moment ago about the totality and then the totality of the individual self. People who carry this channel can have their own unique rhythm. It's called the channel of rhythm, a design of being in the flow. So we have two flows. There's the flow of existence, the totality, the macrocosm. There's the microcosm, the flow, someone who, when we have definition, we have limitation. We're narrowing down. It's this way, not any old way, this way. I am in my flow. We all have our flow, but people who carry this channel will follow a specific rhythm that belongs to them. Mine, I don't have either of those gates. So I can really fall into the flow of somebody else's rhythm or into the flow of the universe. And always checking in with my own strategy and authority to see if it's correct for me, if I'm in alignment so that I fulfill my purpose. So the key to the self's individual potential for magnetism, a gate of extremes. The magnetism comes from actually people who have the definition of that channel, can really pull people into their own flow, just like we can be pulled into the flow of nature, into the flow of this totality. What we all always need to do is check in with our own authority to see if this is correct for us. This is the gate of extremes, and it's the potential capacity for the self to be in the flow. So we have to be initiated as a gate of love. We have to be in the flow as a gate of love. And then we have gate 46, pushing upward, the determination of self, the key to the self's individual potential to recognize its good fortune. This is the potential capacity of the self to succeed where others fail. Channel of discovery, a design of succeeding where others fail is the channel. And people who wear this, when they're gate 29, when I say this, it's like, I always think of that definition as like that. You're, okay, this lifetime I'm wearing this channel, I'm wearing this gate, you know, sometimes it's active, sometimes it's not. And then what I'm not wearing is where all the openness is. So people who have gate 29 and the channel, you know, they have the energy of the sacral to be able to fully commit to a new cycle, to a new journey, to a journey of discovery. And they love the form, the body, this life, this journey, the experiential way. And we may succeed in it, and we may not. The yes or the aha of the sacral center will really guide people if they have this channel on what is the correct next cycle to begin, journey to begin. So we had 3 gates of love, and then we have gate 10. It's a very unique and different kind of a gate. Treading, the behavior of the self. Just look at that word treading. If this isn't English, isn't your language, that means kind of like walking, you know, moving along. The behavior of the self, the behavior of the self. Who are you? What is your behavior? What is your unique expression? This is the key to the self's individual potential to express its nature. Potential capacity of the self to be awakened, channel of awakening, to survive, channel of perfected form, a design focused on survival. Exploration, a design of following your own convictions, no matter what. I am an individual totality, self-contained, here, unique, defined as this, with a strategy and an authority. And this gate is part of the vessel of love. So in that gate there, it has the capacity, because of its location, to bring in these various channels, gate 10. It's also interesting to see how the vessel of love can actually define 4 different centers. Mm-hmm. Define the sacral down here through the 2 channels that come down towards the sacral, through 3 different channels, through the 15, the 46, and the 10. It can define the heart center, and it can define the throat and the spleen through the 10. So it's really, again, if you like, just get a feeling for if you have any of those centers defined. Think of your relationship with the G center. I once did a chart on my own design, because mine, as I said, is completely open. But I have gate 57, and then I have gate 31 and 33. And so my G center, while it's not activated, the gate 7 and gate 13 and gate 10 are actually gates that will tend to be gates that I am tuned more to, because I have gates pointing at those gates. Now, it can be that you have nothing pointing at your G center. That can happen. Or you have definition in it, like Andrea does. But just to sort of tune into it and see, what is it that when I wear this form this time, this life this time, the consistency that I am in the totality of myself. How are we doing? Is this making sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm really glad you're taking us through this journey, and particularly to let people know that if they've got gate activations, whether they're defined or they're dormant and they're an undefined centers, they're going to be attracted to or tuned to, sensitive to the other side that's in the G center. So those are thematics that they would be more familiar with in the G.
Yeah, it'll be like your drug of choice, right? Or, right, or food of choice, or
addiction, interest
of choice. You know, what you're tuned to is exactly right. And Rob said, you know, whenever there is a gate that is a hanging gate, it's always going to be looking for the gate on the other side. Yes. That's just what they do. That's what, because there's an energy flow potential. So my gate 57 will always be, is there a gate 34 out there? Anybody got a 34? Got some power? Or is there someone who's got the right behavior, perfected form? Or is there someone in the now, gate 20? Because gate 57 can go to those 3 different centers, right? And each one brings a different, in my design, I only have these 2 centers to find. And so the gate 57 can suddenly become a generator, or be someone who's also being a projector, but with self G-centered definition, or become a manifester, energetic, not become a manifester, but have access to manifesting energy if a gate 20 shows up and I'm recognized and it's in alignment with my design and my purpose and my strategy and my authority.
Do you find that the 20 is more interesting than a 34 or a 10 because it's getting your energy to the throat?
Yeah, and I was lucky enough to have Ra do a reading on this for me once, and he was pointing out how there's something you guys may not be familiar with. It's something called link nodes. We have the nodes of the moons that are on both the design and personality side, and there's a node on the design side and a node on the personality side that link together and form an important element. I won't go into that now, but my link node, one of my link nodes is gate 31. And so he was really pointing out how gate 20 would be really a strong, because that 31 is there and it's part of my link node and my nodal journey, that the 20 is going to be a gate that I'm very attracted to. And so my not self could easily go into the over efforting of manifestation. So when you're looking at your own design, you can look and see where, it's always interesting to do that, to see when you have hanging activations. That means like a gate that's not part of a channel. You only have, we call it half of a channel. And if it's a gate that can connect to a motor or to the throat, that's usually going to be something that's going to be pretty strong pull for you, because I mean, and remember, in design we also have things like split definition, and those things affect us. But just in a general way, you can look and see, are there any hanging activations I have that are pointing towards a motor or pointing towards expression into the throat? And don't do anything more with that than explore it. When have I noticed myself really drawn to that? While you work on your design, while you're learning human design, and you use it for self-inquiry and exploration and support in differentiating and loving yourself, pick up pieces. You know, pick up something in the G center on one of the vessel of love gates, and explore how is it that the behavior of the self has affected my life? Or, you know, see which one you're drawn to, the spirit of the self, the determination of the self, the rhythm of the self. Who do I get drawn to in relationships? My parents, a beloved one that we've had, or various beloved ones that we've had, and friends or lovers that have been showing up in our life that tend to repeat certain elements that we notice that we're seeking outside of ourselves.
But what do we do about that? Like, I can think of multiple gates that I'm always attracted to. What do I do?
It's to understand it. You have to look and see, all right, so what is it that I feel I'm missing that I need that? So that's what we would call deficiency, right? And then it's really helpful to look at the designs of your parents, I tell you. So important. And so just to take an example, I have no gates in my G center and no gates in my ego center that are activated. It's all completely open. And my mother had the channel of shock and initiation. And she was a projector. So this was a very strong definition in her. And the spirit of the self has been, even though I don't carry anything that, this is all going to be educational to me, or, so it's not me, but it comes in a lot. It doesn't activate something I don't have gates in those two centers, so it doesn't activate a certain gate for me. But because it was my mom, I really have been watching what it is to be a spiritual warrior and how it is to get lost into that. And to come into the fight of needing to be first, simply because I might be feeling like nobody's listening to me, or I don't have a sense of self, I don't have a sense of direction, or I notice I'm in a generator world and feel like I should work harder and really have no idea how to do it. So maybe I should, initiate myself and be a spiritual warrior and work really hard. And so what you can do is just look and see if you notice there's something that you have been pulled to in life. You might look at your parents' designs, or you might just see, is it bridging a gate? Is it activating a center that suddenly makes your not self, everything that's not defined in you, feel more complete? And then to watch it. I mean, there's nothing wrong with what we do. The not self is where we learn. So not to punish yourself or feel inadequate or anything. It's just to go, whoa, look what I do. Like, what a gift that I had a mother who she was actually, she struggled in life and had, she was bipolar. She had the problem of manic depression. And so there was a lot of violence and a lot of really painful existence in life with her. But it taught me something so deep about the spirit of the self, and to watch that so that I'm tuned to it in life. I'm aware of when people are really struggling, and if their needing to be first is coming from because they are first, or is it a not self-expression of, I was never seen, I was never met, and it was so painful that I will show you I'm first, right? Where it's coming from, not from fulfilling your purpose, but from some feeling of inadequacy or deficiency. And then what do? Remember what I said about the G center and the vessel of love. It is the totality of the self, the embodiment of you. I mean, the whole design is, but this is really with the magnetic monopole holding you in your place with the uniqueness that you are, the deep value that is in that.
So if I could share just a little comment about what I've learned from this past moments with you, in case anyone else is curious about, how this might apply to their life. So I personally have always looked for 18s. My dad has the 18, he has a defined splenic center, I have it undefined. And, I just got out of a relationship where he had the 18, he had a couple of elements that brought me up to the throat, and through the spleen to the ego to the throat. And so I find I like to have those gates activated. And my concern was, oh no, I see myself attracted to another one of those. And does that mean I need to avoid this? Because it's completing or continuing a pattern that I've had of being attracted to people who have the splenic center defined and this particular throat gate, the ego, the 26, because I have the 44, the 45, because I have the 26. And what I'm learning from you, I know that all I have to do is follow my emotions, and that, if I'm recognized and I'm invited, I'm feeling clear that I can move forward with that. But still, something in the back of my mind was like, Ra said that I should avoid repeating the patterns that I see in my parents and my, particular spouses that I'm thinking that I would like to, or, people that I'm attracted to. So I feel like I'm more comfortable now in just letting what happened happen.
Yeah. So that was really good what Andrea was talking about in that it could be that she will always be drawn. Remember I said that a gate on one side will always seek the other? But when we're drawn to the gate to fulfill what we in our mind perceive as a deficiency or a lack, then we are outside of this vessel, this embodiment of our beauty and our totality of self. So someone, if I were coaching someone with what Andrea was just sharing and looking at their design, I would say, you know, actually, you're always going to be tuned to gate 18. You will. It's just what's so. And you may very well be tuned to wanting to have access to the throat through whatever it was she was saying about how the definition would often be people. She would be drawn to people who could bring this energy up. Okay. First, we observe and we allow, we embrace it. This is what I do. And then we can transform. We can realign. We can come back to our truth. Just because we do it doesn't mean we're lost. It just means, It's like a bit, those of you who know, have learned a bit about color in human design, which is beneath the surface of the hexagram and the line, like so, for example, I have gate 52 for my personality sun, line 3. And beneath that line is then a color, which is the third color for me. Now I completely forgot what I was going to say with that. It doesn't matter because I was going off grid there for a moment. But color also influences us and can motivate us to look for. Oh, I know what I was going to say. Transference. When we have a color, so I have the third color in my personality sun earth, which is the color of desire, and I can transfer to innocence, which means I can transfer away from what is my true motivation into the opposite of what it is, which is called innocence. And when I'm transferred, I don't have access to the full depth and totality of my design. But that doesn't mean it's wrong to transfer. What we want to do is to begin to recognize, I'm in transference. I'm in innocence. I'm not here for innocence. My motivation is desire, this locking in, focusing in, this crescendo energy. And then you see it. And that, that's the journey. We somehow become shamed into thinking we are not allowed to make mistakes. Well, as a third line being, let's see how many, there's 1.1 billion people on the planet, I would imagine, who have the third line in their profile, because there's 6 lines and we're 7 something billion people. So there's going to be around 1 billion that will have a third line somehow. And they're all here to experiment and share with the people who aren't third lines. It's okay to make a mistake. It's okay to experiment. It's okay to find out. I see we're getting to the end of our hour here. So what I think I'll do is I'll work on this particular slide, and then we'll stop and we'll take questions and sharings, and then we'll move on with it next time, where we go. Actually, I'll go into each of the gates. Okay. Okay. Here we have love, the vessel of love, and the 4 elements that are there. And this is a really interesting thing that Ra shared along quite some years ago, where he brings our attention to these gates as the aura, the blood, the flesh, and the life. So the 3 gates of love being the aura, and that being the love of humanity, and the gate of modesty. Gate 25, the gate of innocence, this universal love, which is the blood. And then gate 46, pushing upward, self-love, love of form, body, flesh. So the cross of love is made up of these 4 points that are going to then activate the vessel format inside of the G center. And it's this format that is connecting us then to universal love and universal self, this greater macro. So the use of the word vessel is in the sense of a container, and is in essence, this is what the work of this aspect of the G center is, and of the magnetic monopole, is to be this container. This, like, I'm going to hold a being, and I'm going to hold condensation is one word that comes up, or a coming togetherness, of being pulled by the magnetic monopole, of being held into an illusion of uniqueness and differentiation. Were you going to ask something, Andrea?
I just got this like chills and some kind of flash of insight about how this connects us to the totality. And I don't know that I can articulate it, but it's beautiful. Thank you.
Yeah. No, thank Ra. And the voice. Yeah, so this being this container, this holding, containing, containment, and it is the magnetic monopole that is holding our separate reality together. If we again contemplate that, each of you has this holding that creates your separate reality, and to remember that we have separate realities.
Mm-hmm.
It is so important to honor your own uniqueness and the uniqueness of those who you know, of all beings, so that you're not attempting to get them to fit into your unique separate reality.
Mm-hmm.
The magnetic monopole is what is establishing the boundary from which then life can manifest. A boundary. The vessel is these four elements. It is the outside boundary. It is the inside boundary, which is what it contains and how it can be emptied and how it can be filled. And if we use this analogy, we could say that the outside boundary is the aura. The inside boundary is the flesh. The content is the blood. And the outlet is the life.
Now I finally get the vessel analogy, or how that all fits together.
Yeah.
Besides just the visual of it looking like a cup.
Yeah, it does kind of have that holding of those gates as they rest at the bottom of the G center.
Mm-hmm.
So it's within these 4 fields we have these 4 mysteries that are waiting to be revealed. The mystery of the arc, which is the aura. The mystery of the philosopher's stone, which is the blood. The mystery of the grail, like the Holy Grail, the grail, which is the flesh. And the nature of being, which is this life.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what we'll look at each of them, of the arc, the aura, or the philosopher's stone, the grail, and then the life of through the view of each of these gates next time we meet.
Okay, that sounds great. So I think we had a question here. Christina said that that's beautiful. We had a question that came up. It says somewhat off topic, but it was back when you were talking about the crystals. She says, Marcia says, but how does this happen when doing IVF, in vitro fertilization, and frozen embryos? Where are the crystals? So if you could maybe talk about how the crystals come in and when that time process happens so people can get a sense of it.
Everything has a design crystal. Everything.
Mm-hmm.
Every cell has a design crystal. What we have in our body graph, how we look at it through the body graph, is we have a primary design crystal. And so the question is not all of them have a magnetic monopole. So not all of them are, and that may not be accurate, but but we all have this design crystal, and we all have something that is, just take a stone, for example. A stone can pull together other design crystals to create a stone, and the nature of the design crystal is what will determine what the form is. So how does it happen that we can have in vitro fertilization and still create a being? Form is form. What we could call animates it is the personality consciousness that is coming in, which actually doesn't come from Earth. Design crystals come or return back into the Earth's core, according to the voice. Personality crystals are are part of the 16 Godheads, the 16 crystal bundles that are surrounding, sheathing our Earth. And it's only when that comes in that we have the potential for self-reflected consciousness. And so if you have a viable form, a form that can hold life of a personality crystal, then you're going to have life, regardless of how the form was put together, because form design crystals are in all cells. Does that answer the question? Does that make sense?
I think that helps me. I personally had in vitro fertilization, so I can understand and appreciate the question. What I was interested when I heard you say that design crystals can gather more crystals, and we think every cell has its own crystal, it kind of like made me think, well, does that mean that all design crystals have a monopole, or the monopole only comes out when it starts to build a body? So all of the other design, like everything has a design crystal, so all of these different cells that are within us, do they all have their own monopole to create the cell? Was my question. Which might
in the book of letters that Ra had, there he has, and then it's come into other materials as well, the charts that are for the designs of all forms, both animate and inanimate. And the personality crystal is never manifesting in inanimate objects.
Okay.
So all of these non-life, quote unquote, forms, they are endowed with a design crystal and a magnetic monopole. Every separate object in our universe is endowed with a design crystal and a magnetic monopole. And it's the design crystal that is, as I was saying, determining the nature of the form, and the magnetic monopole then is maintaining its separateness and determining the place of it. So an inanimate object that in the design of forms can maybe have just one single gate that it's going to interact with the universe with. And this perhaps, we would look at and see as gate 25, this potential for initiation, to initiate, which is dependent on shock, something that is a kicker, a starter. And the inanimate objects of the universe are what is determining the potential initiation process for the totality, this life. So we have the design crystals, and we have them in every cell. This is what Ross said. Every cell has a design crystal, but it's the primary design crystals that are going to be the ones that pull. I will have to, I'm not remembering specifically about the magnetic monopole and its relationship to the individual design crystals and the primary. So I'll look into that and maybe answer that.
It would make sense though if when we have a design crystal start to come into form, it's the separation of the monopole from the design crystal that actually starts to build the body and create, form. So it would seem that so that's a primary design crystal, and then he said there may be the things that actually make up something that has a design and a monopole might have like secondary design
Well,
crystals
just
within?
imagine the monopole is pulling to it, right? And so it's pulling to it the design crystals that are needed for that form to be formed.
Ah, okay. Okay.
And then when it's going to be a human, then 3 months down the road, or 3 months prior to birthing, it draws in the personality crystal that's going to bring the consciousness to it.
Okay.
And so the forming happens prior to the potential for self-reflected consciousness that we have. And then in inanimate objects, the drawing together is going to be, just drawing together the design crystals that are of a nature that will establish that form. I mean, it's an interesting conversation to see, as I'm thinking about it, whether the design crystal, the magnetic monopole, is the determining factor of what the form will be, or if it's the design crystals. Ra was saying that the design crystals, the ones that are of certain nature, determine what the form is. And yet we've learned that actually in our DNA that we can teach it to be anything. It can, we have stem cells that can be a heart, it can be an eye, it can be a bone, it can be, it can move in any direction. And so these stem cells also would have design crystals. And so maybe there's mutant ones. It's a really interesting area. I would imagine this is something that Andrea, I always forget Andrea.
Rachel Wolf. Yeah.
Yeah, because she's a
geneticist.
Geneticist, yeah. She's the one who knows an awful, deep, vast knowledge about the biology and physiology aspects of human design. I'm more in the mystical realms, but I love the contemplation of it.
Yeah, we have another question here. How would you describe when someone has a soul recognition experience and a magnetic draw to reunite after conflict leads to separation? Does this have to do with the G center activations?
What I think what you have to always do, because what happens to us when we have questions like that, where we get really like, we feel so lost sometimes in the vastness of this movement and the potential chaos that exists around us at all time, the lack of certainty, the lack of knowing. And so if we look to find, just as we do in the mystical way, the channel gate 19 is the pressure to move up to gate 49 through the channel of synthesis and sensitivity, to have a relationship with something that is greater than us, a God, a greater force. And we as humans are drawn to that, just as we're drawn to find meaning in life. So if we are drawn into a relationship and then out of a relationship and then finding them again, and there's a great tuning there, a great beauty there, a great satisfaction there, all we can do is return back to our strategy and to the authority informing it, because we're here to be the passenger. We're not here to make sense of things. We're here to experience them. And this is what happens. We're like, well, what does it mean? And it's hard not to, because there is this aspect of our design that I was mentioning, this mystical way that seeks meaning and a relationship with something that is greater than just this life. Really? Just this? There must be more, right? But actually, the moreness is this life, the vastness of this movement of our totality of self that is a microcosm of the vastness of the greater totality. So if you come back together with someone, it's because the journey brought you back together with someone. And you go, aha. And it takes you away. And in the journey as a passenger, you would say, aha. Not good, not bad, just so.
Watching the spiral of evolution as you go through that experience, because it's never exactly the same. There's always new learning and new growth when you come into contact with someone, because the time has passed.
Yeah, and I mean, I've had many clients come to me asking, so I completely understand your question and have empathy and sympathy. But I have clients that'll say, yeah, but am I going to have a relationship? We don't know. We'll see if the journey brings that. You can't read it in the design, because it's the mind that is seeking it through the feelings of deficiency. When we are in the embodiment of our vessel of love, which is this totality of self, we will meet and have access to and experience and bring to us exactly what is needed for us to fulfill our purpose. We are conditioned into thinking our purpose is dependent on marriage and jobs and security and homes and children and all these pieces of the collective and the tribal life. It may be, it may not be. We're moving into 2027 where it is more separate, more focused, not so collective, tribal, you know, bargains and institutions and contracts with each other and community, and being much more about the phoenix going into the fire and waking up as what? As yourself. And in that, the rave that is coming, the rave children, the rave type, that we have no clue really what it is, because we aren't it and we'll never really understand it, is, according to Ra and the voice, is that it is something that is emerged awareness. We are crossovers, and we have the possibility to live this life feeling the interconnectedness with all others. So we no longer have to have that feeling of deficiency that the seven-centered consciousness does of where's my man, where's my woman, where's my security, where's my... Because we actually have the security of existence. I'm a wholeness. I'm a totality of self moving through the world. And as is painful, I mean, believe me, I've had my experiences where this sense of separation and deficiency and distortion and loss and not self has been overwhelming with pain and grief and loss. I know this. All we can do is return back to trust. Genoa, when I was going through one of my difficult times, Genoa Bliven from Human Design America, he used this phrase. He said, trust the lords of karma. I say, trust your design and your movement, your purpose, being the witness, being the passenger. And that's, again, how I was able to move through as well, to keep returning to, actually, I am a totality of self.
That is something that I've heard you say multiple times this particular session that we've had, and me being a split definition and not currently connected to anybody right now, I can feel how that is like a balm, or it heals, you know, being able to identify that I am designed the way that I am, split definition, perfectly, and I don't need an other to complete me, even though I'm always looking for that mentally, for the security, to get rid of the things that I think are a problem inside of myself.
Exactly. And so that's why I was saying before, that's the inquiry. That's, you know, it's just like you look at design, the technicalities of the body graph and go, oh, I noticed my dad had gate 18 and I look for gate 18s and what's with this gate 18? We can do that with our ideas about life. When I was a teenager, as soon as I could get a job, I had the channel of transformation, design of being driven, right? As soon as I got a job, I had the job before I turned 16. And as soon as I turned 16, I started working. And I would, you know, either walk or get driven to work or ride a bike and then do one of those things coming home. And every time I was leaving work, I'd come home, I'd think, I'm going to go a different way, because if I don't go a different way, I'm going to fall asleep. I'll stop seeing things. So I have to go somewhere different every time. And this is it, you know, why does it shake us up? Why does it initiate us? Gate 25 receives the shock and initiation of gate 51. Why? Initiation into self. Initiation into the moment as yourself, behavior of the self in the now, in the embodiment, in the aura and the blood and the flesh and the life.
Beautiful. we have Melissa saying, as an incarnation cross of the sleeping phoenix, I woke up in 10:08 with a lot of questions arise. A lot of questions arise because I walked away from so much. And that's a very interesting cross. I don't believe we have time to go into that cross, but it's a profound one.
Yeah.
Sleeping Phoenix.
Yeah, the Phoenix is an amazing one. Go, sweetie, go jump into the fire and see. What the beauty of it is, you know, the image of the Phoenix. What is born again is fabulously beautiful. So we can trust the destruction,
Yes.
the obliteration.
Yes, definitely. Thank you so much, Darshana, for your time today. I really appreciate you sharing your knowledge and your passion for this subject. And I've definitely gotten some additional insights that I hadn't gotten anywhere else. So thank you. And thank you very much, everyone, for being here with us. We really appreciate your participation, because without you, we don't have the energy to do this kind of thing. Pull projectors. All right. Take care, everybody. Thank you so much again, Darshana.
Yeah, and we'll continue. This is an ongoing saga, and we'll go on with it. But I haven't picked up a date yet, so we'll inform you. It'll be on my Facebook page. Andrea will probably put it on hers, or somehow you guys will all have access to it.
Yeah, I'll email everyone again. Okay. Thank you. Bye for now.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.